Yo, welcome back to the Stuff or Whatever podcast. BQuanchi here, and it's been a good while since I did this format on the channel and all that. I don't know, it's kind of weird because I feel like even though I do put stuff on the channel, I even say consistently, it just feels like going to my old mantra just of it pretty much is throwing spaghetti at the walls. Like it's mostly being let's plays and my stream VODs and all that, and always appreciate any like feedback, any engagement, honestly, whether it's on Twitch, on YouTube, and all that, or all that. Because I put my links in the description, and just kind of want to revisit this podcast style. I feel like honestly, it's a little bit lame at times because it's just solo podcast. It's just like me talking, rambling. I even at times felt like it'd be cool to have a format like, hey, I'm talking about current stuff, or most of it like stuff I would care about talking about, whether it be my interests or stuff like that. And even thinking like, oh, maybe I'll just look up some weird news articles or stuff like that, or I don't know. I even just thought it'd be kind of cool to have like advice column or like style or a response, but it's just like a one thing I kind of wanted to talk about this podcast is just the idea of putting content online, content creation, whether it be on YouTube or otherwise. And yeah, sometimes it feels like it's a little bit futile. I feel like one of my biggest barriers for me is that I'm not that good, or others can do it much better. I think even it's a little evident with this little format here, because I'm like a pie in the sky kind of dream would be like to have natural podcasts and stuff like that, not just some solo guy in his apartment just rambling into a microphone with internet access to put it on YouTube. But yeah, just to kind of get the thoughts out, because I think a part of like the idea of content creation is like being heard or creating stuff that entertains, inspires, or whatever. I feel like part of me on that aspect is, if you notice a lot on the like little let's play deck, I call them BQuanchi gameplay just to have some title to it. But I do play a lot of indie game demos and kind of showcase them, and I think it's kind of cool to have that spotlight boost or whatever. It's like, hey, I saw you play this game. I want to check it out. Whether it be something I play for like a let's try kind of thing, especially with those demos and stuff like that, since you only have so much to work with. And the streams I do on Twitch, which uploaded back here, I like to organize playlists. I feel like that's also part of the hobby aspect of this, is that I can kind of like, oh, there's a playlist of my playthrough of this game and that game. I can kind of like organize it and all that. Like I watch a lot of YouTube. I'm sure a lot of people out there do, with hearing content creators talk about like the algorithms and stuff like that, like changing the formats and thumbnails and titles of videos and stuff like that. And I feel like for me, since this is a hobby, it's I don't have that like pressure, but I also kind of feel like I'm not getting that success. But then at the same time, I'm probably not trying as hard as I could. But I have a full time job and all that. Like I can, when it's my days off, that's when I record stuff or stream or whatever. But it's also time like I just want to be lazy. I just want to relax and all that. So I think it's nice. Like, hey, this isn't my full time job. Like if things slip, it can be devastating. It can be crucial and stuff like that. Because I feel like some of the landscape with YouTube can change quite a bit. And not that I'm an expert or anything. I feel like people talk about like, oh, like views going down. Especially, I feel like there's that aspect. It's, even though it's been around, I saw a post. I think it's 20 years now since that video, the YouTube of the founder of YouTube was at the zoo. So it's been like 20 years, but I feel like this is still pretty new in terms of like a job or a career. Because people have extreme successes with YouTube, like you look online and stuff like that. From your Mr. Beast to your Markipliers to whatever, and there's the good and the bad and all that. But I feel like it's one of those things, like if things crash or fall, or cancel culture can be part of it too, which I think can be valid in terms of calling out like certain behaviors and stuff like that versus uh I don't know. It feels like when things can just crumble and it's your livelihood, and not just your livelihood, but you build a team of other employees or editors and stuff like that. It feels like it'd be a lot of weight for a lot of people. So going back, I feel like that's why almost like I believe like, hey, this is a hobby, but also like that, I kind of like the mindset too. Like, what if it could be more? Uh, because honestly, I have YouTube partnership, I have AdSense and stuff like that. It's honestly not really much, um, but if it was more, it'd be cool because I think also I think it's very reasonable for people to have that mindset. Like, what if I had a side hustle? What if I had like a little extra income where they help more with bills or just have more disposable income? And I think also that idea of having internet fame and not just like, oh, look at me, I'm have all these fans, I have this big following, but I think it's that natural desire of being heard. People's like, oh, I like what you have to say, or not just like what you say directly, but like, oh, you play this game and I like that game, or I like this because you liked it and because you shared it, it passed on to others and stuff like that. I feel like it's also like how fandoms work too, into like, oh, I like this, you like this, we both like it. It's like a community or just like a almost like a hive mind and stuff like that. So I don't know. It feels like having that aspect is pretty cool in the power of the internet, but it's good and bad and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like sometimes it can be a little futile because people argue like, oh, it's you don't get quite the views, and then if you have to pay people or it's like your livelihood and all that. Like, I feel like hearing just creators or channels and stuff like that, like Patreon's a huge thing. Like, if they didn't have that, they would have the benefit of doing what they do. Because I feel like even back in the day when there was more like Let's Players and stuff like that was more blowing up. It's like, oh, it's nice to have a job where you can just play video games and do like that. But with the accessibility of anyone who can just putting this out there, whether they're doing it as a hobby or just hey, we want to make money and stuff like that. It's still competitive, and also like stuff like that I want us to talk about too, like with like AI use and stuff like that. And also I think another thing that kind of like blows my mind or blows a gasket is when you see stuff that like really low effort and stuff like that, and it's like views. I feel like you always get that like mindset I think if you put yourself too much into that position, like, hey, this is like my livelihood, or this is like my goal is to be watched, to be big subscriber base and stuff like that, and you see like people with low effort like react videos. Like, I really recommend, I know he's an OG YouTuber, Jack's Film, but I do like his side channel, Judge Jack's Films. He'll play on this Sniper Wolf thing, but he talks about like how people like steal content and then just react to it, but it's extremely low effort. All that. There's a lot of channels out there, like spam channels or just like those low effort react channels, and you feel like, why are they getting these insane views and insane subscriber base and following and stuff like that, when you feel like they're doing less than the bare minimum? And when you're actually trying, and for myself, I use trying in a loose term, because I don't know, I feel like the reason I do this podcast too, well, I used to do it a lot more, almost on a weekly basis, but I would do it just because like low effort, like versus doing like commentary videos and stuff like that. I just feel like it's an easy format to like, hey, I can talk about stuff, and I feel like, well, since it's a podcast, I don't have to worry about like having like footage or different like reacts of my little like character and stuff like that you see on the channel, and the branding, I guess. It's kind of weird to say branding, but I guess that's true. And I think part of it is what kind of holds me back with doing more is I feel like I'm not as good as doing it. And I feel like sometimes like, oh, I have to have a personality and I forget to do so. And I don't want to be like fake. But I must admit, I feel like me is not as entertaining, but I can improve. I feel like it's one of those things that, with experience, and I think that's why I did the podcasts more on a consistent basis, even if it's just talking to a microphone and throw it online for maybe less than a handful of people to see. I feel like the gaming stuff gets more attention, even like the older stuff. And even there's a lot of videos I put on this channel that I deleted when it was kind of a try hard. Like even history back on the channel, I used to do Loot Crate unboxings and stuff like that, trying to be like, oh, I can be a YouTuber and make money and stuff like that. And as I get older, I almost cringe at that. But I don't know, I feel like part of it is just my speech, my ability to really talk. I get a little jealous too, just listening to how like people can articulate and talk about like whether it be like I just to throw out some channels I really follow, like Scott the Boss. I know he's big out there, but just like how he talks about so much stuff with like Nintendo and stuff like that, and then like I just got to watch his video lately, but Johnny Two Cellos talking about like animation, whether it be the newest season of Invincible or the upcoming King of the Hill, and I get a little envious too, like how well spoken, and I'm sure it takes a lot of effort too. It's funny, like when I'm doing Let's Plays, or whatever, or even this like podcast is like talking off the cuff, so it's not like as. I think when I have to think more, that's when it gets a little bit harder. And I had my issues with speech too when I was younger. But what I've also been doing on the channel is the shorts, which a lot of it's like game demo impressions or quick game reviews. And even though it's like a minute, there's a lot of stuff I cut out because I'm so worried about like. I know it feels weird when I'm reading from a script or like an outline, like saying the words in front of me. I get so hung up sometimes, and part of it's like, where am I articulating in the right way? Like I don't want to feel like I'm too frustrated or I'm too segmented with each sentence and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of process, but kind of like behind the scenes, just my thought process too. Like this stuff I want to do. This has been on the channel before, like game commentary. I feel like I have a folder of thumbnails and even on Google Docs, like 4 or 5 different like commentary videos I haven't fully written, and I just dread recording. Or even like game reviews, like 3 games I want to review on a channel. And I feel like also part of it's like not just my ability to like talk and articulate and all that and being entertaining, but also my editing is very simple. Like I'll just throw footage as B-roll versus having like a little character reacting or all that, or having a nice fancy web camera to like talk to. And it just feels like when you're not as good or you can't present things good, it just feels like a waste. Like I feel like I do get benefits from it, like just a practice of talking and speaking and all that. Because when I was younger, I had a lot of speech problem with the speech therapy. Certain words like R's are a big one. Like R's would come out like W sounds. Like Elmer Fudd is how I talk like a kid. I feel like that still like is an ongoing thing. And obviously like my stutters and stammers and stuff like that too. So that's why I feel a little like, wow, people can be really well spoken and all that. I think even when I do the podcast, sometimes I can look back to them and be a little proud. Like, hey, I can say things and not like be too tongue tied or stammers and as bad, but it's gonna happen. I think even the most well-spoken people can be like that. But I just kind of feel like if I had more of the following, the motivation, maybe I'll do more. But I feel like I just need to sit down and like, hey, it's like, God, I can't even think of the idiom or the metaphor, or whatever. Like farming and planting the seeds, like the fruits of your labor, kind of thing. Like, I can't enjoy the fruits of my labor if I'm not willing to plant a tree. And I'm doing something, but yeah, it's just like one of those things that it's, I think having the mindset of a hobby is kind of like a fallback, so I don't have to feel as bad, but I don't try as much. But also it's like, well, I would like to see things a little bit better, because I think like people have that pie in the sky thing of how, hey, what if you blew up? Like, what if you can, love what you do and not just have like a 9-to-5 job that's kind of like weighs on you, but it pays the bills and gives you that stability and stuff like that. I think that's also like the fear with the YouTube online create in like Twitch or other platforms, TikTok. Or, like TikTok's a good example, like where like, oh, is it going to be banned by the government again in the US? Is everything going to be crumbling down, or someone's going to build drama and take you down online? It can't really be much. He just kind of like loose thoughts about that, and kind of wish it could be more, but I don't know. It's like the effort you put into, but also like I need my downtime. I need time to kind of relax and recharge, and it still feels like new territory again. 20 years for YouTube, and I'm trying to think when the partnership, like when people like, hey, we can make money from that, because you used to be like, oh, we can just put videos online. It wasn't always that you can get ad money and stuff like that. And you see like sponsorships and partnerships, and of course Patreon and stuff like that too, where it's very viable. It's very, not only for yourself, but to have a team and all that. So I get a little jealous of it too, especially when you feel like there's people out there that have huge followings, have huge fame, have huge income, revenue, all that don't really deserve it, at least in your eyes. So it's like, I can put the effort, but then I choose not to. But it's one of those things like, you want to be heard. You want to feel like what you do matters, and I think that's kind of a tough barrier. But I think my advice is to just do it, and if it hits, it hits. If it not, then it doesn't. But just make sure not to have all your eggs in one basket, or have so much hope in something that especially when you need stability, especially when finances and all that is a big deal. And something I even think about, I want to kind of like pivot into AI use, because I see like that's a lot of times on like not just like YouTube, but like the AI slop and like videos of like those cats that I think like a daughter cat and a buff dad cat going through, and like user daughter gets into like hijinks with like making messes and stuff like that, or getting superpowers or weird things. I think like these stupid ones with like some fat woman on America's Got Talent or something like that, and then they transform into a skinnier version, but they have like the real footage of judges like Howie Mandel and Simon Cowell and stuff like that. I think when you see the AI slop and you feel like it's definitely like low effort, or like you can definitely see the quality, but then it gets the views, or going back to like the spam React YouTubers, even like the not only did they make like a dumb face or low effort, reaction, like even have an AI reactor, that like, again, you can check out Jack's films for more examples. Like he really highlights that, and he really highlights the importance of creators and stuff like that, because a lot of those like they take TikToks or shorts or something from other creators, and it's kind of like benefit them making money because they react. And it's like, it's not that people care about their content of the reaction. It's like, oh, they curated a compilation, and a lot of times like avoiding giving credit to the creators, stuff like that too. So I think that's also kind of like one of those things in the back of your mind. I think, oh, what if I create something that's really great or creative, and then someone else just steals it, reacts to it, quote unquote, and they kind of steal that thunder and all that. There's even been times like I think about like the AI programs that can take like samples of your voice, and then like they can do the narration and all that. Like I said, like that's a big barrier for me, is like actually speaking, especially when I have like, okay, this is like a script, this is like my outline when I want to talk about this kind of commentary or even game review and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, if I had an AI program to do it for me, that would be so much easier. But I feel like part of that is I wouldn't be happy with it, because I don't think it is basing it off me as the base of it. That it wouldn't be as good. Like it just like, I think inflections is something I worry about too. That's why I kind of like cut so much stuff. Like I feel like, it's not what you say, but how you say it, how it flows, and I'm not good at that. So just having an AI trying to learn from me, I don't think that'd be anywhere. And then the other part of that too is I don't get better. Like if I don't honestly try, if I don't record myself and retake and edit and see like, okay, I like that take better because I said it better. Like I'm not gonna get better if I just let the AI do it for me. I think that's one thing too. There's a lot of flaw with AI. There's a lot of good advancements with it, and I it's can be a very touchy subject too, because some people like extremely anti AI, especially on the creative side, on the art side, which I lean on more. Because it's like you see like animation or just like art, and it's just like slop, and then people like praise it, like, oh, like better get a job being a plumber or something, because the art jobs are going to be taken. I feel like it's not that point. I feel like with AI, there might have to be some real human intervention just to make it more presentable. Like, I know a few weeks ago, I think, with Internet Time, but like the Studio Ghibli like AI things, like people are like, oh, this is so cool, it's so amazing, and then me not being so much of an artist, like look like for example, they had like they like did a bunch of memes, but in the Ghibli style based on this AI. And it was like that girl that burned the house. Well, not the girl that burned the house, but it's a house on fire, and the girl like looks like him, like she done it. But you can see like flaws, like with the hose connecting to the fire hydrant is off badly. Or they had like, I think it's Turkish, in Olympics, like the shooter. They had like that as Ghibli style, but then you look in the background, the Olympic logo, there was only 3 rings, not 5. So there's like so many bad flaws, and people just like eat it up. And I think real artists is extremely important. I want to talk more about it. Again, I haven't been doing this format much lately, but I might do it more just because it feels like a good way to express my ideas or thoughts and things like that. And it can be like commentary videos. I just feel like part of it's low effort, but you get something out there. So we'll see. But also, like with the AI too, there's always that discussion like how it impacts the environment. I feel like sometimes that's not always clearly discussed, or anything that like the bad negative impacts besides like stealing art, possibly taking jobs, or like people like do low effort and then create a low effort product when they could have did much more with the resources, like with hiring real people, real artists, and all that. Like another big thing I've been hearing is like it can take a lot of resources to power servers, and then use like the cooling system with all the water, so there's actual waste of like water and power and all that. And I think I even saw the article, like I think it was Dexter or whatever, shared online, is that like the Ghibli one, like it was like losing them so much money. That's what I also wonder with AI art too, like what's the really end game? Because I feel like a lot of it's people like, oh, that's funny or that's kind of neat to look at, but I'm not going to pay for it. I'm not going to pay an AI whatever program, or what do you want to call it? Like, I'm not going to pay extra money just to make these generations. Like, I see other people's do it, because I'm sure others are going to pay money for it. But I think for the mass appeal, like, oh, that's neat. I'm not paying for it. It looks neat. And then also, the other side, like, okay, that's stealing art. This is slop. Hate it. Stuff like that. So I think a mass majority of people is like, oh, that's neat. Whatever. And then people are like, oh, this is bad. This is flawed visually, artistically, it's bad. And, it's just stealing work from artists and stuff like that, where they're just like learning from it or just trying to be replacement. Because it's an account I was going to want to pivot this to the last part of this podcast, because I want to talk about furry art, because I've been doing that a little bit more lately, more so on Twitter or Blue Sky, stuff like that. So I just want to get into a follow-up solo podcast with this, talk about it a little bit more. But that's been a lot of my hobbies or interests in it. And it doesn't really reflect too much on the YouTube channel, because it's a lot of it's gaming. So that's, besides my little character there, the bear character you see in the branding. But I've been focusing on art. I feel like it's just, because I know that's kind of like the truth of social media and looking at screens. I feel like looking at art and not a creative side by real creators, real artists, and all that. So I've really been plugging. You can track it down. Like if you follow my Twitter, I have a link tree that has all the links to that. I think a little bit more on Instagram too. I've been kind of like leaning more on that for like the art side. So it's out there, and it's kind of like the mix between I'm not hiding it, but I'm not highlighting as much when it comes to the YouTube stuff. So I don't know, there's been kind of furry stuff on our channel too. It's actually funny looking at analytics. Like there's some furry games, Polydog Patrol and the Forest Legends, that get a little more views like over time. Like it's small numbers in comparison to other more bigger channels, but it does a little bit better with numbers. I think some of it is with the content. It's hard to make it YouTube friendly in terms of ads suitability, and that's another topic too. Like, I think when it goes to content creation and stuff like that, going back to that, like, you could get demonetized so easily, and a lot of it's for bullshit reasons. I think being on this end of it, where I'm more of a watcher, I'm more like a follower, but I do put stuff online consistently. Like seeing like, oh, this video game had this song, and then like 10 seconds of this song, you can't monetize, or it goes to this. And sometimes it can be bullshit too. Like it could be someone like, oh, they claim ownership of the media when it's not, but because they have it in the system, it's like, oh well. I think a lot of times you can fight it too. You always kind of worry about, getting a copyright strike, but the few times I had it, I think maybe a lot of it because it's gameplay versus like showing actual like TV shows or cartoons and stuff like that. I think it just kind of like fizzles away. Like this, like on that aspect, you can like dispute it, or you can like it's like I forget the two levels, but one is like, oh, if they don't respond in 30 days and it's dropped versus like 7 days. But I think that can result in more of a strike if it's counted against you. Because I had that with I mentioned on stream, but with BioShock, I think the first part of that had like more music, but it just dropped off. And even Economy was kind of stupid because it's like, oh, it's because of a stream that they did with like the HD relaunch or whatever. So it gets very dumb. And yeah, you also worry about, 3 strikes and you're out. So I think that's the concerns when it comes to online content creation is like, you can have the rug pulled underneath you, and it's like, so what? Like, fuck you. I feel like YouTube, it hasn't always had the creators in mind when they sometimes, present it that way in the social media posts, but like, oh, this is too graphic, and then they have like ads of like porn games or even like OnlyFans sites and stuff like that too. Like, not to say that there's issues with that kind of content, but it's very hypocritical for YouTube. Like, oh, you swore too much, or your content is too risque. But then since advertisers are paying money, then they can get a pass because money talks and stuff like that. So I feel like that's the one nice thing about doing what I'm doing is I don't have to worry about too much of, hey, if things fall apart, or go count against you, it's not the worst thing, because to me, at the end of the day, if it's a hobby, it's not, it's not going to break the bank. It's not going to, crumble my world if things don't work the way I want them to. But it's always like, hey, what if it could be more, not just like income, although that's a bit important part of it too, but just kind of like the reach too. So I'm going to end the podcast as well. It had some nice experiences, very very small, but like the demos videos I done, I played Tales of Fate, and then I even had like the count, whether I'm not sure if the game developer or whatever who runs it, but they like DM me on Twitter like, oh, that was kind of cool. Like they mentioned like I said something in a video about like, hey, this is Bear Prisoner I wasn't able to save, and then you kind of like, oh, you can do that on demo and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a nice conversation. I think it goes back to like being heard. And even like I played this game Overwhelmed, which is kind of a cool arcade shooter, and like they talked about it too, like, oh, I was worried you weren't gonna do this mechanic, and then you did it and stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, pretty cool. And even a small one, I think it's an indie developer, but one called like Powerline Rider, like they mentioned like that. And like, oh yeah, I can't believe I didn't see it till now. And then even mentioned like, oh, it's gonna be development got pushed back, but like, oh, good luck. So it's like having those interactions, like even if it's small. I think it's just going back to like, hey, I'm being heard, I'm being noticed, and I don't know. It feels like if I can't be a strong creative force, if I can platform in any way or even boost in any small way, whether it be a small indie game developer or an artist and stuff like that too, I feel like there's something very special about that, and I think that's why I keep doing it. I think also part of it, it's my benefit too, like. like I said, I have issues with speech and talking and all that, which I'm even thinking like in the back of my head, like, oh, I feel like when it's like this off the cuff or just talking, it's not as bad. But I'm really like an extremely introverted person, not as talkative. People, when hang out with like others in bars or friends and stuff like that, be like, "Oh, you're so quiet" and stuff like that. And it's kind of like when you don't have much to say, you just kind of feel just like you're really part of the moment. And when you can make your own moments, whether it just be being in your apartment with a microphone and a laptop, do what you have to do what you want to do. And that's kind of like my little words of inspiration and all that. So again, it circles back to the whole idea of like being heard and just like sharing. Like I like going back to like, oh, this is cool. I'm checking this out. And even with the gaming stuff, I feel like part of it's like, oh, I don't have a personality. I feel like a lot of it's very like because a lot of it's blind reacting, trying these games out for the first time without having much experience with them. Sometimes on streams, I might like play a game I'm familiar with and all that, like doing a playthrough. And it is like it's kind of like my honest reaction to the game and my thoughts, but like, oh, people might see this. People might want more from me, and I don't want to be like fake or blow it up. But I feel like it's also experience. Like, hey, if you want to entertain others, try to be more entertaining, and I think that's kind of like my struggles. But I feel there's growth in that too. Like I said, like what if I had AI like read scripts for me for game reviews or commentaries? Like that might get my message across, but maybe not in the way I want it to, and I might not even benefit from it. Versus like, hey, maybe it might get noticed, it might be criticized. It's like with that cartoon commentaries too. I know that Carrick Artman and I forget what other stuff they did. I know Blooms did a lot of good coverage of it last year. But it's like, hey, maybe be noticed for the right reasons, for the wrong reasons, whether it benefits you financially or people like call it out and like this is lame. And at the end of the day, I just want to be proud of what I do, and I kind of use that word loosely because like, oh, I played Fortnite on stream and threw up the VOD. Am I proud of that? Like, I actually had fun with that. I feel like this almost like this cathartic thing, like playing a game versus playing a game streaming with a microphone, reacting to it, even if no one's even watching. It just kind of feels like, I don't know, it puts your mind at a different set and creates a different experience. So I would say anyone out there who wants to, it's definitely not easy. It takes a lot of luck, and I think just over time, it's going to require a whole lot more luck. It's going to require a whole much effort because you got to stand out from everyone else. And it is like a huge, like, you may think like, oh, it's not too much in terms of like content with this like Minecraft Let's Players or Fortnite Let's Players or this and that. Like, I feel like there's so much in there that you don't even see, like a giant iceberg of anything else. But just kind of do you, but just put your effort to it and just kind of like accept the fact that maybe it won't pop off because I think it does take a lot of luck. But I think if you do a good job, like some people do amazing jobs. I think with animation too, you can see like, oh, that's really cool, or artists and stuff like that. Which I do want to talk more about furry stuff, probably next podcast, which I probably would even do sooner. I'm actually kind of enjoying this a little bit more than I would thought because I feel like it kind of circles back, like no one's really listening, no one's watching. Why put the effort into it? And I get my benefits whether one person watches or 100 people watches or more. Because, I have a lot more to say about the furry stuff, which I feel like it's something like I don't want to be like cringe or gush or like, oh, that's lame because he likes this. But I like what I like, and I, follow even supported artists, and I feel like that's why I want to do a follow-up to this podcast. Again, it could be, this is kind of more like an update, and I feel like, it's kind of like an excuse, but it's something like versus doing like, oh, I follow these assets and make something more entertaining to watch visually. And even if it's more about the words I'm saying, and yeah, I think that kind of sums things up. So I'll probably do a follow up more talking about like art and my experience with furry art. Because if you, for those who've seen it, there's a lot I do online with furry art in the community, and yeah, I'll definitely say I'm a furry. No shame in that. I feel like it can be one of those communities where there's a lot of layers, there's a lot of like subgroups, or there's a lot of people in different areas. So it's not always like, oh, a furry is this exactly. Like it can be more separated than you think. Like versus being, oh, a fandom of a TV show or a fandom of a comic book series or stuff like that. So there's definitely some complexity to that. But yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave it off. I feel like it's kind of lame just to have a solo podcast of me just talking to a microphone, because it's not much, but it's something. And even if it's just me documenting just my thoughts, it's something I can enjoy or benefit, even if it's from the practice of just talking out loud, editing things, and all that. So I would like to do more. I feel like that also like dampers the motivation when it's like, why make the effort if there's no, real reason to do so. So that will do it for this week. I say this week because, again, I used to do this on a more weekly basis, even though no one was really caring or making reaction and stuff like that. But I think next week I'll do more with this format. So that was kind of fun. Just take a dip back into this and just kind of curious to see how this will, what will happen, because I feel like there's some channel growth over time. It's kind of like that weird, like, hey, numbers are kind of going up, but you don't really see what's working or what's sticking or any feedback. Maybe just a little bit, but this has been honestly been fun with like the updates on the channel and stuff like that. So that will do it for today. So y'all take care and have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.